All right, guys, this is Paul Singh, the market speculator, with the weekly swing trade report for Bulls on Wall Street. What we're going to do today is look at the market, look at market breadth, talk about a few industries and some stocks that look interesting right now. We'll go over a few trades that we've taken and a few stocks that have reported earnings. Let's take a look at SPY here. Remember when we were going through this dip here, it was a little bit shaky. We knew that since the pandemic low, every dip had essentially been bought up, even the scarier ones. And what was interesting here, as we had been running up, market breadth was weakening, and it was pretty weak on the initial decline. But as the decline got more intense with SPY and the Qs and IWM, market breadth actually started to improve. We got less worried. Took a few trades, and now we've got the bounce in here. And market breadth is very strong right now. So it looks like a typical year for us if we think about seasonality, in the sense that September, October tend to be volatile and weak. And we can see that's what happened in 2020 as well. We had the two drops, September, October, and we essentially had this big one, September to October here. And then November, December tend to be strong, and we get a run going into the end of the year. And that might be in play here again. Earnings season has started. The market is looking good. We are at all-time highs. Now, going into the week, probably, what we'd like to see is a little consolidation or a little bit of a pullback before the next move higher, if it does indeed come, because we are a little extended here. And we never want to be breaking resistances at extended levels. Those are more likely to fail. The Qs here also has made a really nice run, but farther away from highs because it had a deeper dip. But overall, growth stocks, tech stocks looking pretty good, which is what we want to see. And then IWM here, very different pattern than the other two indexes. We've been seeing higher lows, which is good. And now we are slowly getting to close to the top of the range, at least the middle to top half of the range here. And obviously, we'd like to see a breakout here of this essentially year-long range in IWM. It's always good when small caps are leading. When we, from the pandemic low up to here, basically essentially all of 2020, small caps in IWM were leading. So we'd like to see that continue. Market breadth here, we obviously, one of the things we look at is IWM versus SPY, which is looking pretty decent right now. And then SPY versus the equal weighted ETF takes all the S&P 500 stocks, equally weights them. Instead of Apple being 3%, they're all 0.2%. And you can see here what's interesting is we talk about strong market breadth. Look at that. SPY has not broke its high yet. RSP has. So that's a positive divergence here. There's other market breadth factors we look at as well, but this is a really clear indication that things are looking pretty good overall. QQEW also close. Would be for the Qs, NASDAQ 100, closer to its high than the Qs themselves are. So we're seeing some positive indications in market breadth. Another one of the easiest ones is how many good stocks are you seeing to trade? And we're seeing quite a few good setups, even extended stocks now. So that's where we are in the market. Let's look at a few industries. Financials have been very strong. Look at that. Breaking highs. SPY has not broke its high yet. Financials have. Financials were the first to report during this earnings season. They did very well. So that's a good sign as well. So definitely a space we want to be watching. A little extended now, you can trade financial stocks, but the easiest thing to do is just take FAS. Very few of the stocks are going to beat FAS if financials are running. And this is a triple leveraged ETF. And then energy, very similar chart pattern near term. Not quite at its highs because it was much higher before, but overall, really strong right now. Love energy. I think it's going to continue to be strong, but I would love to see a little bit of a pullback to get some fresh setups going. They're really extended right now. We can also do ERX as well, which is the leveraged ETF. Now let's look at some areas that would relate to growth. IGV software, very strong here. After a pretty deep pullback, looking very good. Cloud as well, very strong. The ARC ETF, which is a lot of growth stocks here, lagging a little bit, but has made a nice move in here. And then there's an ETF I like to watch called IPO. Obviously, it has a lot of IPO stocks in here. You can see what stocks are actually in it, but this is doing well as well. So these are some areas we should be keying into. There are other areas we can look at. Home builders are very strong right now, surprisingly. After what was looking like maybe a topping pattern, it's come back very strong. So there's some areas, there's other areas we could be watching as well, but these are the areas I am keying in on right now. Now let's look at some stocks, and we'll talk about one other area. It's not necessarily not necessarily an industry, but China. And Baba here, almost all of the China stocks have really been beaten down with what the government was doing there. And I could pull up Baba, I could put up Baidu, I could pull up Didi, and the list goes on and on. But we'll just look at Baba here. It's made a nice run here, broke this downtrend and the 50-day moving average. Now we're looking for a potential entry in Baba. I like Baba a lot here. DKS, we actually entered this one. You can see the breakout, pullback, held the gap fill, and now remounting the 50-day moving average. Looks like a fantastic continuation pattern here in DKS after a pullback. SM is one of the energy stocks I like because it moves very quickly. So look for a potential entry here. It has been consolidating for a couple of weeks. Maybe if it breaks the high here, that would be a good entry. mRNA, of course, we're always watching mRNA. Nothing to really do with it right now. If it were to show some strength, and right now I think it could go either way as kind of a dead cat bounce or a continuation, but if it were to start to show some strength and get up against the 50-day moving average, I might take it as an anticipation play and play for a break, a remount through that, and maybe a test of the highs. But obviously it has some work to do. It has to get up here about 50 points. That sounds like a lot, but it can do it very quickly. I mean, the stock from here to here went like 40 points right there. So mRNA, watching Pinterest. This is one that I had identified as a topping pattern. You can see the topping pattern here, and it did start to roll over. Negative distribution came in, but then we got a big, strong spike here last week. Hasn't negated the topping pattern yet, but it does have earnings coming soon on the 27th. That would be next Tuesday or Wednesday. And then if it can remount the 200-day moving average, it's actually then invalidating the topping pattern and then turning into a continuation pattern again. So this earnings is going to be huge. If it can get up over the 200-day moving average, we're back at looking at Pinterest as a potential momentum stock. So those are some of the stocks I'm watching. Let's look at a few that reported earnings. Netflix posted amazing earnings, a lot of it related to Squid Game. But you can see initially it gapped down, but has been very strong the last 2 days. Not really an entry right now, but definitely watching it. Tesla had great earnings and a good reaction as well. And then Intel, INTC, had terrible earnings. Look at that gap down, but sometimes these gap downs are overreactions and you end up seeing a big run after that. So I will be watching for a potential gap down reversal. Now let's look at a few trades we've taken recently. Let me start with the loser and then we'll go for the two winners. American Airlines, I still think airlines are ready to make that run here off this bottoming formation, but it's been slow going. I was holding this one for a while. It didn't quite hit my stop yet, but I just decided to get out of it here. But I do, if these things set up again, I won't hesitate to take a shot at airlines. I think eventually we're going to get a big run like we had here. All right, now let's go to the last two winners. We had Nvidia here. This ended up being almost 4-1. You can see the big run into our target here, resistance level, and it looks like it put in a tail here and starting to pull back. I think we got out around 229, ended up being a 3.6-1 trade. And then apps before that, another nice continuation pattern here. We had played this on the remount, and when it hit the resistance level, we got out of this one as well. This one ended up being a good trade as well. I like this one still. So if it sets up again, I won't hesitate to get back in. All right, guys. So that's the weekly swing report. If you're looking for more, remember you can always join the swing report at Bulls on Wall Street, part-time trader, swing trade report, full bootcamp class, the daily report videos, alerts, and of course, we have the chat room as well. All right, guys. See you next time.